with the ending to how 105 went, I feel like chapter 106 is going to be very clearly a Misaki back on her feet chapter, back ready to fight. The questions are going to be more of how the flow of that goes, because if, like I've said, if it is that she just lost and she's just done, that would be like, it'd be so weird. It'd be so weird because like Mishima he's given a good treatment to every single member of Diablo so far, like, except for probably Georg. Georg's the one that's kind of the only one that hasn't had anything too good. The only thing you can really say is like his design is really cool, and like pretty much every panel with him, he looks badass. I mean, that's something, I guess. Like he's got cool lore and like cool design, but like the dude we didn't get to see anything of him. Still got my fingers crossed to see cool scenes with him in flashbacks, so maybe he can become like a cool character, at least that way. But with pretty much everybody else, he's given a pretty good treatment to. Even like members like Madmal, he's made funny and made fun to just see fight. And he got even though he lost to Natsu in the second round, and it's very clear that there's no way that Madmal was going to win at that point. Madmal got back up, but there's no way he was going to win. And he got kind of a win on too, like the first time, but it's like that had to do with motion sickness. But he still was doing, was doing pretty good. Outside of that, Madmal, I think, has had fair treatment. Skullion has had some pretty fair treatment. Got a win on Gray. He looks really cool. Kyria has had some good fights and has had some cool other parts where we've seen other aspects of her character, like her whole stuff with Laxus. And anytime she was like getting flustered with Laxus is really good because it made her less of a one-dimensional I want to attack and slash stuff character. And then you look at people like Suzaku, Kira, and Haku. They've all got pretty nice content into their character. Stuff that's made them more interesting and made them, again, more than just like a bad guy for a bit. And obviously, we look at like Wraith and like his backstory that gave us some deeper lore, which is really cool. So Misaki losing here would just be really weird, also from a writing standpoint, because she's one of the, she's one of the Dark Dragon Slayer Knights. She's like would lose in such an odd way where all she would have really done so far is like throw a few attacks, and it would have been like like it'd be so weird to really do that, because Mishima, he's not like on a rush. Like everything's been fine 100 years class. Everything's been going pretty well. I really doubt she's lost. And there's a lot of other things, a lot of visual cues, like her clothes are fine. We know that damage to a character to a high degree means their clothes are going to be damaged, and especially for female characters, is what it is. So when you look at that and you see her, we don't even see her face. Her hair looks relatively fine too. It just looks like she took some burn damage. I don't think she's hurt. They're also still in her dimension. So Urza, not Dodge Gray. Just Urza is still stuck there. So unless it like immediately dissipates next chapter and Misaki doesn't get back up, which is, again, would be weird to me, but we'll see, because then it's just going to be like, well, where does this go from here? Like Urza just becomes more powerful. And there was something that somebody I saw a comment for that I didn't really think about, is when Misaki was talking about how like there's more people like her. That means she's obviously referring to more than one individual. I think she's saying comparing Urza to somebody else, and there is the idea of Irene, so we could maybe tie that into the arc. And I think that there's now enough evidence for a theory that I had around Misaki's character, which it's just a small idea that could tie into things. We'll see. But I'll save that for another video. Outside of that, the way that I would believe, Misaki getting back up to fight is what I would believe the most. I said, I think it was in stream or was it my video? I can't remember if I said 2/3 getting back up, 1/3 defeat. I kind of feel like it maybe even like 3/4 back up. Like there's always that possibility she's defeated, but at the same time, I feel like from a lot of logical standpoints and a lot of things we've seen visually, that she's gonna get back up. And I think that it'll go one of two ways. I think it will be another full Misaki and Urza chapter, or it'll be half a chapter, and then it will set up another 2 fights. Madmal and Skullion will show up, fight Godzilla Gray, we'll get those fights. But then we will also see Ignia and Selene meeting up. I think that's probably how we're looking maybe at the end. Like, because if it's not going to be a fully focused chapter on them, obviously we got to see what's going on with the other people. Natsu and Suzaku, we don't really need to see get to any, like, I don't think we need to get them to any serious point of action right now. I think once Selene and Ignia start kind of actually stretching, unless they want to like intercept them, unless we're going to have Selene and Suzaku round 2 and Natsu versus Ignia in an actual skirmish. I don't really know about that one, actually. I feel like that, in like, an idea is cool, but then at the same time, it's like, so Suzaku knows that he can't take Selene 1v1 in reality, so you can just scratch that idea. But it sounded cool for like 5 seconds, and I'm like, no. But it definitely needs to go away them teaming up. They're gonna have to intercept one of them, I think, in a 1v2. Otherwise, I think that it's, I mean, it can't really even do that because Selene will just teleport him away. Selene will just say, get out of here. So really, I mean, I don't think they can interrupt the fight. I feel like Natsu and Suzaku right now, their logical direction is getting to know each other as characters and becoming friends. Because we know that the issue between their guilds is entirely misunderstanding. So this is the perfect setup to how they can fix that problem. And then Diablos and Fairy Tail can become allies. And through that, Fairy Tail can help Diablos defeat Selene and get their guild back. Maybe even Suzaku could become guildmaster. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like, at least as of right now, he logically would be the one to be in charge. But depends on Kieran. Kieran seems pretty cool. Like, it's funny because when you look at, like, so far when you look at the Dark Dragon Slayer Knights, you have Suzaku, who's very nice and polite, and he's a little bit goofy sometimes, but he's for the most part a very nice guy. If you're not an enemy, then like. You have, I guess we've only seen Misaki in like a combat scenario, so you can't really say. Because I was gonna like look over them, like they're also kind of nice in some ways, but Misaki did logically run into an enemy. I don't know. Either way, when you look at everything right now, I think that this needs to pretty much be set up to ally their 2 guilds because they do need to get their guild back. I was thinking just like talking about the Dark Dragon Slayer Knights and how they're all pretty regular for the most part in terms of like how they act as humans, and Misaki just immediately goes for kills on people. Immediately just like, oh yeah, I was trying to cut off your head. It's like, geez. But anyway, besides that, I would assume that this next chapter really only has a couple logical ways to go. I feel like the half chapter where we kind of leave off on a cliffhanger with Misaki and Urza would be better, because at least so far, Urza doesn't look too taxed, and Misaki, I imagine, would get back up. But I kind of want their fight to get interrupted. I would really, my hopes is that Misaki would get back up, and Urza and her keep fighting. They get to that halfway point in the chapter where it's a draw. I want them to have a draw. I think that would be the best idea. And then, because logically, I think that Misaki is, that chunk stronger than Urza, but Misaki, this whole fight has been underestimating Urza. Even though there's been points where she's given her higher levels of respect, she's not acting like Urza is a worthy opponent. Like, you have to be ready and on your toes and respect like the idea that they can pull out, some crazy ability. Like Urza just did. She pulled out obviously a really just big, powerful attack that Misaki definitely wasn't expecting. It was affecting her dimension. Like, she should be ready with the idea of a character pulling out some crazy trump card that could just start increasing their power dramatically. Like, that's one of those things that I feel like in a universe like this, or any Shonen Battle series, where you have characters with these powers, that you should have that idea of that a character could have, something really crazy up their sleeve like that, even if they don't, because it's in a world where you could pretty much use abilities and stuff to craft any form of ability. So if you can have, what's like an ability that turns you into a dragon, what's like, oh yeah, I can double my power for like a brief period of time, whatever, triplet. So if you give him a rematch, I think it'd be better, because Urza would be able to go in with more of an understanding of Misaki's abilities. She would know more of like how she should be fighting and be aware of her opponent, whereas like Misaki instead would be like re-entering a second fight fully aware of how strong Urza is and ready to actually fight her with like the respect that she should be having an opponent at that level from the go. Like, I get that Misaki is stronger than Urza, but she should, like, it feels a lot like, think back to how Laxus looked at like he reflected on his fight with Natsu when he was in his fight with Jura, and there was that gap, but the gap wasn't so large that you couldn't fight Mac and then eventually overcome that. Like, that's just one of those kinds of fights. Natsu and Laxus is a different story, whereas I feel like Jura, reflecting on that idea, the concept, obviously, it was like the characters who are right at your feet. Like, you should always, you should always look down because there might be somebody right at your feet ready to take you down. And that's just a logical thing because it is a ladder. Eventually, a character will overcome you if you're not careful. So, we'll see how this goes. Like, like, the crazy thing is, like, I like chapter 105, but like the bigger like thing I want to talk about is just like what could happen in chapter 106, just because it's one of those ones where it's left off on the character just went down, but it's like it doesn't really seem like they're defeated. But Misaki's unlike because I thought it was funny that it's a similar situation with Usfar and Kaido, because I was memeing on them when I got Carmen. But with them, they've been in fights for a while, whereas like Misaki's just started. So it'd be weird if Misaki lost here. Whereas like, even though I don't think Usabaro and Kaido are actually down, like if they lost here, it'd be like, well, they've been in fights for like 9 chapters, whereas like Misaki's been in fights for like 2. So it'd be like, Misaki, what the fuck? What are you doing? She's not the main antagonist, but at the same time, it'd be like, what the fuck? Get back on your feet. You're fine. You're a fucking dragon. But anyway. This is a little bit longer than I intended this video to be, but I was actually really enjoying just talking about like the ways that next chapter can go, because it's like there's always going to be that like the people that are going to say she's going to lose. Like any chapter that leaves off like that, there's going to be people that like immediately say that character lost, even if the next chapter happens and they're immediately on their feet in the second panel. But whatever. Yeah. So comment below. Tell me your thoughts about this next chapter, and like does anybody actually think Misaki is defeated? I'll be genuinely surprised if she's defeated. I feel like this shouldn't be the point where Urza reaches this level. Like, she should get a way better fight, a way more emotional and intense fight. And if we get like a tie, like a full draw in the next chapter, like halfway through, and you get a second round, there could be more of stakes in a second round, because Misaki will have an emotional tie into the fight instead of just Urza. And on top of that, they'll have history of a previous match to elevate this match to a higher degree, because they're going to be going in with a lot more ferocity, because they're going to have, again, more problems with each other than where they already were at. And I think this is kind of like Minerva, if Minerva was like set up in a set arc, where the weird thing about Minerva's was that she was kind of set up to go continuous, and then she was stopped it at Tartarus, where it's like, I imagine Misaki and Urza's rivalry pretty much stay in this arc, maybe extend out to more friendly rivalry later. I'm hoping we can kind of get something like that with other Diablos members, where we can kind of get all these characters to have some rivals just off on the side. I don't want any of the Diablos members to die. I'll be very sad if we lose anymore, because I've liked all of them. I don't want any of them to die. I lost Georg before I really got anything outside of cool artwork of him. But anyway, yeah, this video is way longer than it should have. Comment below. Thanks so for liking the video, and if you already subscribed, and if you haven't subscribed, appreciate it. Other than that,